Alan tested his trapped arm with the tip of his knife. There was absolutely no sensation left. After being pinned for 24 hours, all the cells in his hand had died from lack of circulation. Even more alarming was his dwindling water supply. Less than 300 milliliters remained, barely enough to last a few more days. He abandoned the idea of chiseling away at the rock face. The knife blade had been worn completely smooth, and the stone wall showed no signs of damage whatsoever. As night fell again, he had learned from experience and tied everything to his body for warmth. He carefully unwrapped his last remaining piece of bread, taking tiny bites to make it last. Afterward, he couldn't resist taking just a small sip of water. To conserve every drop of moisture in his body, he even held back from urinating, spending another restless night drifting in and out of consciousness. On the third day, Alan continued searching for an escape route. He wrapped his climbing rope around the boulder several times, using both hands and feet to secure it tightly. Through a carabiner, he connected it to the rope above, creating a makeshift pulley system. Despite pulling with his hands, pushing with his feet, and using his entire body weight to create leverage, the massive stone refused to budge even slightly. All his efforts had been completely wasted. The blazing midday sun beat down mercilessly, and his water was nearly gone. Alan's mind wandered to memories of beer and cold drinks at parties. If he ever got out of here, he promised himself he'd drink to his heart's content. But daydreaming about refreshment wouldn't quench his thirst. He could only ration his water one careful sip at a time. Suddenly, an overwhelming urge to urinate hit him. He unbuckled his belt and relieved himself, probably the result of holding it in for so long. Thinking ahead, he used his water bladder to collect the urine, saving it for potential emergency use. As darkness fell once more, Alan began analyzing what he had learned. The pulley system was useless because the climbing rope had too much give to it. Chiseling at the rock wall was pointless and only made his arm more tightly wedged. He started mentally preparing for the worst-case scenario. He pulled out the cotton tubing from his water bladder's drinking tube. It would make an excellent tourniquet. He tied it around his upper arm and used a carabiner to gradually tighten it. Then he began attempting to cut through his own arm. However, the knife blade was so dull it couldn't even break the skin, and the effort drained what little energy he had left. When he reached for his water, he accidentally knocked over the bottle, watching helplessly as the precious liquid spilled onto the ground. The waste of his lifeline filled him with utter despair. In his delirious state, thoughts of his family and girlfriend brought him a moment of comfort. Suddenly, a deafening crack of thunder jolted him back to reality. He opened his mouth wide and unscrewed his bottle cap as torrential rain poured down like a waterfall. But the downpour quickly turned into a raging torrent, rushing through the canyon crevices with frightening speed. Within moments, the water level had risen to his neck. In this critical moment, the buoyancy from the floodwater finally allowed him to push the boulder aside. He was free. Alan jumped into his car and raced home at breakneck speed. But when his girlfriend saw him, she simply glanced his way before shutting the door. It had all been just a dream. His mind was beginning to break down from dehydration and exhaustion. When daylight came, he drank the last drops of his water. This meant that waiting any longer would only lead to certain death. The time had come to make a final, desperate decision.